Hey everybody, hope you're all doing good today. Just time for our second installment of lure categories that we're going to be doing over the next week or maybe even 2 weeks. And today's topic is one of my favorite pre-spawn deals. And again, this is sort of it's not really a secret, but it is. There's not a lot of people that know about it really outside of pro fishing. Some people do, but it's not real common. And that is using the big lipless crankbaits in the pre-spawn. And so I'm going to sort of give you a breakdown of like when I like to fish them, where, the conditions, how I set them up, and sort of give you a little bit of a seminar on that today. But hey, before we get started, once again, if you guys are interested in any of these baits that I'm talking about today, I've included a link in the description of this video. It's the link that Fish the Moment uses through Tackle Warehouse, where if you go on, hit the link basically in the description here, it'll take you to the fishthemoment.com link to Tackle Warehouse. And if you order some of these baits through Tackle Warehouse from the link that I provide here, Fish the Moment gets a small portion of those proceeds. And it really helps out Johnny and I to put these videos out. So we'd really appreciate it if you do want to order some of these baits to go through the link that we provided here. So anyway, let's get at it. And what we're going to talk about here, lipless crankbaits, I'll give you a little bit of history about them. Back when I started fishing a lot, seriously, 40 some years ago for bass, lipless crankbaits were considered white bass lures. I remember the earliest memories I had is my dad used to take me down to Grand Lake when I was a little bitty kid. We had a 16-foot Starcraft V-bottom boat with an 18 horsepower Evinrude on it, and it had a little trolling motor on the back, and I thought it was the greatest boat in the world. It was really, I thought couldn't get any better than that. But we would go down to Grand Lake up in the Elk River Arm, and we would troll these baits called swimming minnows. If you guys, the old school dudes maybe know what I'm talking about, but a swimming minnow was basically, it was a lipless crankbait, probably one of the first ones ever made. That Bio Boogie was sort of the same deal, but a swimming minnow was a lipless crankbait, and we trolled them for white bass. And for lots of years after that, up until the early 80s, a lot of people they didn't consider lipless crankbaits for largemouth. They considered them white bass lures. And it was only, over the years that sort of like changed a little bit to where lipless crankbaits were proven super effective. And initially, I think a lot of people got using them, over grass beds, which are extremely effective around grass, but there are also a lot of different situations for them. The lipless crankbaits come in a lot of variations. They come in sizes anywhere between 1/8 ounce up to 1 ounce. And what I want to talk about today are the big lipless crankbaits, the 3/4 ounce and the 1 ounce ones. These are my favorite ones to throw because when you're talking about lipless crankbaits, I probably caught more big bass on the 3/4 ounce and 1 ounce size than any other size by far. And it's just my favorite way to fish because they don't get fished a whole lot. So anyway, the two that I want to talk about today, I want to start out first with the 3/4 ounce size. And 3/4 ounce size, this is a Megabass Vibration X 3/4 ounce. First of all, 3/4 ounce size is a larger size. So in the pre-spawn, like we're going to be talking about a lot, like I talked about yesterday, a lot of the bait in the lake you fish, whether it be shad, herring, perch, whatever, in the pre-spawn or late winter, they're bigger than they are the rest of the year. And that's why I think a lot of these big, larger profile lipless crankbaits work. But the times that I like to use them, there's two different ways. For me, the lipless crankbait in the 3/4 ounce size is a bait that I can cover a lot of the same type of pre-spawn water that I would with any type of a crankbait or even a jerkbait. One of my favorite ways to fish a 3/4 ounce lipless, once that water temperature starts to hit like in the low 50s, is the same places, the same type of points that I've been fishing like with a jerkbait and an Alabama rig or a swim bait, just like main lake, secondary points, that type of stuff. One of the best ways to catch them in that situation, it doesn't really matter the water visibility. My preferred range for a lipless crankbait is sort of in that 1.5 to 3 foot visibility. That's my favorite, but you can catch them in dirtier and clearer water. But one of my favorite ways to catch them on the 3/4 ounce size is to get on those main lake secondary points on windy days, the days that you got a lot of wind. Sun or clouds doesn't really matter, but you really need the wind. And those days that are a little bit warmer, average, warmer than normal. The water temperature still may be in the low 50s, but the air temperature may get one of those days that is close to 70 degrees. When you get those conditions, fishing those the same type of pre-spawn areas you're fishing with traditional pre-spawn baits, throwing these 3/4 ounce rattle traps is a deadly way to catch them in that situation. Also, in this same type of deal, I mean, this is a good bait over grass, any type of grass lakes you're fishing. That's pretty, a lot of people know about that. I mean, I think probably the 1/2 ounce size is the most common, but the 3/4 ounce size is definitely, it allows you to get the bait deeper quicker, make longer casts, and it generates a little bit longer strikes. I remember a prime example of how the 3/4 ounce works better. I remember we fished a tournament years ago down at Rayburn, Sam Rayburn, and Guy Ecker won the tournament. And this was back sort of when, vibrating, crankbaits were just starting out to gaining, tournament popularity. And Guy, it was like he caught limits right off the bat on a 1/2 ounce rattle trap, and then he'd upgrade to the 3/4 ounce size, and he wound up catching a 9-pounder, I think the last day of the tournament, and won it on the 3/4. That's sort of how that works there. Now, the one that I really want to talk about a lot here, simply because there's a lot of misconceptions and people don't use it, and it's a bait that I don't really want to give away too much, but at the same time, it's like anything else in fishing. It's like there's no secrets anymore, and you have to know when and where to throw it, and there's so many variables involved that there's just no key secret baits anymore, and that is the 1 ounce rattle trap. Now, Megabass, everybody knows I'm sponsored by Megabass, been with the company forever. Megabass doesn't make a 1 ounce option. Very few companies do, actually. A lot of companies make the 3/4, very few make the 1 ounce. Now, here's the difference you can see in the two baits. You can see the size comparison with them. Excuse me. You can see there's a noticeable difference in the size. This 1 ounce rattle trap, it's another one of those deals where there's very few people that knew about it or started using it. And when they did, this bait was originally designed for stripers, a lot of trolling for stripers, that type of stuff. And eventually, I think what a lot of people started doing, and that fished a lot of the big fish lakes down south, like Toledo Bend, Lake Seminole, Sam Rayburn, that type of stuff, Gunnersville, Kentucky Lake, is they were using the 3/4 ounce model, and they said, man, if they buy the 3/4 ounce model, they buy the 1 ounce model, because the 1 ounce model it's about like a 3-inch shad. I mean, it's the right on the size, frame that a lot of big bass eat. So anyway, a lot of people started fishing these things over those grass beds in the pre-spawn and catching a lot of big fish on it. I mean, the first lesson I had in the 1 ounce rattle trap is I was fishing a tournament, a Bassmaster Top 150 tournament down at Lake Gunnersville. It was early season. I think it was late February, early March. Excuse me. Got some allergies I'm trying to get over here. Late February, early March. Water temperatures was in the low 50s. And they were biting pretty good. I mean, there was a lot of fish getting caught, and I was doing really good in the tournament. I was catching a lot of fish, of my bigger fish in the tournament, basically slow rolling the big spinnerbait. And I had a good bag in the boat, like 18 or 20 pounds, and Brent Chapman came up to me, and Brent and I used to work a lot together in the tournaments when we were both fishing Bassmaster. And Brent came up to me, we had like an hour left to fish, and he goes, man, how's it going? And I said, well, I got a pretty good bag, I got close to 20 pounds. He goes, man, I've got one fish. He goes, I cannot catch him. And he goes, and I said, man, just get in right here and just start fishing. I said, there's a big area, there's a lot of fish in there. So Brent got behind me and just started fishing. And he pulled out and he started fishing a 1 ounce rattle trap. I didn't even have one in the boat. He caught like 22, 23 pounds of fish in an hour on that big rattle trap. Wound up having a really good tournament on it. And that really opened my eyes to it, the big rattle trap. The thing about the big rattle trap, the 1 ounce model, is probably 90% of the applications that I've seen for this bait is over grass. If you're fishing lakes anywhere in the country that have, deep to medium grass beds, all the TVA lakes, all the lakes in the southeast that have grass in them, like Lake Seminole, a lot of the Florida lakes, maybe that have some deeper grass, like parts of Harris Chain, Lake Toho, that type of stuff. all the lakes through Texas, Sam Rayburn, Toledo Bend. If you're in a lake that has a lot of deep grass, you need to be throwing this big 1 ounce lipless crankbait in the pre-spawn when that water temperature first starts to get over 50 degrees. And it's like any other big lure, you know, you're going to sacrifice the number of bites you get for the quality, but it's definitely worth it. Now, the way that I like to set this bait up is talk about hooks right off the bat. These are just the stock hooks that come on it. I don't use these particular hooks. I'll change out the hooks on the 1 ounce size, and I'll put the number 1 Gamakatsu G Finesse trebles on it. It's really good setup on it. And on the 3/4 ounce side, like the Megabass Vibration X, I'll go with, like, you know, probably, you know, maybe probably a number 3 up front, and, you know, maybe a number 2 on the back, something like that. You don't want to overpower this bait with hooks, because even though it's a big bait and you know you're after big fish, a lot of people tend to put too big of hooks on them, like those big round bend trebles. And when you do that, it will take the action away from that lipless crankbait. So you want to keep those hooks as small as you can get away, and still, you know, have a good hooking capability. On this particular thing, I like to throw it on a long rod that you can really get it out there, because, you know, this is a power fishing technique to the maximum. The rod that I use on it is the Megabass Launcher. It's a fiberglass sort of composite rod. It's just a little shy of 8 feet long. It's our long rod. I can make a super long cast with it. And, you know, when those fish hit that bait from a long distance out there, that super long rod allows me to take up a lot of, you know, a lot of slack in the line on the hook set. And the soft tip on that rod allows me to control those fish without hooks pulling out once they get close to the bait. Most of the time, line size, I'm using anywhere between 15 to 20 pound test Seaguard and Vizex line. Line size is totally dependent upon the, you know, how deep the grass is that you want to fish. And not to say that you have to just fish it on grass, because you can fish this just down the bank, like on rocky points, stuff like that, the same places you fish the 3/4 ounce. But the places that it really excels is on grass flats, then they just don't get that much attention to it. Now, there's 2 different ways you want to work this bait. On the big baits like that, the big pre-spawn lipless crankbaits, you got to get that bait, if you're fishing grass, close to the grass. So you know, you're fishing it at a slow to medium retrieve. I like to pump it quite a bit. I like to sort of feel it through the grass. So when I throw it out there and I'm fishing over the grass beds, I'm not just reeling it in, I'm throwing it out there, and I'm almost sort of just working like a jig. I'm reeling it through it and pulling it a little bit. I'm trying to keep that bait as close as I can, you know, to the grass beds. And when that water temperature is in the low 50s, that's really key that you do that. If you're fishing the 3/4 ounce ones, like the Vibration X, like on the secondary and main points that I'm talking about, the best success that I've had has been fishing that bait close to the bottom. So I'll throw it out there again. I'll let it get you close to the bottom, and I'm not necessarily bouncing along the bottom, but I'm trying to visualize that bait getting no more than a foot off the bottom. And this technique is really good. You know, the biggest 5-fish limit I have ever caught in my life, like I talked about it on a video a few weeks ago, it was at Lake Murray, South Carolina, early March, 50-degree water temperature. In practice, I had 5 bass that would have weighed 37 to 38 pounds on the lipless crankbait, fishing it just like that on those secondary points, just inside the points on some steeper banks, and just sort of slow rolling it, keeping it close to the bottom. So anyway, this whole deal about the oversized lipless crankbaits, this is a big deal in the pre-spawn. I mean, it's something that doesn't get fished a lot. It gets overlooked for a lot of other options. But I'm telling you guys right now, you need to include it in your arsenal, at least give it a try, you know, this year. Once, you know, if you're fishing down south, start trying it right now. If you're fishing more in the mid part of the country, into February, first part of March, it's going to be a really big deal for you. So anyway, that's today's tip. Hope that, you know, adds up to some more fish for you guys. Like I said, if you're interested in ordering any of this type of stuff, you know, I've included the Fish the Moment Tackle Warehouse link in the description here. Please use that link to order these on Tackle Warehouse. Again, helps Johnny and I out a lot to produce these videos. We get a small portion of that for the video. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing good today. Really appreciate you checking in. Man, I've got the most, you know, passionate, you know, YouTube subscribers out there. You guys send lots of comments in. You really involved in what we're doing here. I really appreciate that. And I'll be back tomorrow with our next lure category. So stay tuned. See y'all later.